Thomas Paine. Here's a man who typifies the American dream, who typifies what we understand uniquely about freedom in America. He was born in England, raised in a village on the northeastern end of London, in a very poor village, a place where he routinely saw excesses of power, abuses of power resulting from the king's use of authority. People were routinely, usually of the peasant class, routinely flogged, beaten, and sometimes put to death, in some cases for petty offenses. This caused Thomas Paine to think. It caused him to be a little bit suspicious of government, a little bit suspicious of the monarchy itself. Many years later, after he had failed at marriage, after he had failed in business, he was looking for a new life. He met a man named Benjamin Franklin during one of his lengthy visits to England. Franklin somehow persuaded Paine to move to America and to settle in Philadelphia. There, he got far away from politics. He didn't like politics as a result of what he saw of politics in England. He went into the publishing business. He went to work for a magazine that itself decidedly stayed away from politics. But after a while, he kept seeing this long train of abuses by the British Crown and Parliament, and he could no longer keep his mouth shut. So he penned a work, a pamphlet, that became known as Common Sense. And in Common Sense, he started asking some very simple questions. Why do we have a king? Why do we consider ourselves subjects of this person whose only qualification is his father and his mother? Why do we submit ourselves to a government of one when that one person isn't even accountable to the people? It makes no sense. Now, this, of course, was an act of treason. He was an Englishman and a British subject on American soil. And so a friend helped him submit it for publication. A dozen or so publishers refused to have anything to do with it. They didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Ultimately, one agreed to do it, but only with a bunch of caveats, that they'd be held liable for any damages resulting from it, and that no one's name be attached to it. The result was historic. The result was monumental. This became a bestseller not only in American history up until that point, but ever since then, selling 100,000 copies in the first 3 months alone. You know what you'd have to do today to sell that many copies as a percentage of population? About 12 million copies in the first 3 months alone. Now, our lost declaration hasn't achieved that status. Fortunately, Common Sense did, and it sparked a revolution against the world's greatest superpower at the time, and we won that war.